We all like to think we're these super rational shoppers. We make spreadsheets, we compare all the features, we weigh the pros and cons, and then we make the smart choice. But what if I told you that's, well, almost never how it actually goes down? What if the real reasons we buy things are way more primal, more intuitive, and honestly, way more important to understand?
Okay, so here's the big secret, the one that completely flips the script on marketing. When people are faced with a choice, they almost never pick the objectively best option. Yeah, all those spec sheets, all those feature-by-feature comparisons, all that data, it just doesn't matter nearly as much as we think it does. Instead of all that hard work, they do this. They take the path of least resistance. They choose what feels right, what feels intuitive, and what requires the least amount of brain power to justify. Seriously, this one idea changes absolutely everything about how you should think about marketing and persuasion. So let's dive into this. The right feel, not the best deal. Because once you really get this, you'll finally understand why some marketing campaigns just connect and create these massive brands, while others, even for products that are technically better, just fall completely flat. So that begs the question, right? If people aren't meticulously weighing all the pros and cons to find the perfect choice, then what is actually going on inside their heads? What's the real engine driving the decision? Well, to answer that, we need to look at these two competing systems that are always running in our minds. It's kind of like having two different pilots in your brain who can grab the controls at any moment. And let's just say one of them flies way, way more often than the other. On one side, you've got your conscious, logical mind. It's slow, it's deliberate, and it takes a ton of energy to use. Think about doing your taxes or trying to assemble IKEA furniture. That's your logical brain sweating it out. But on the other side, you have your fast, intuitive, emotional brain. It runs on autopilot, on gut feelings, and here's the kicker. We spend almost our entire day operating from this emotional system. It's our brain's default setting because, well, it's just so much easier. And this leads to a fascinating behavior that has a fantastic name, satisficing. It basically means we don't optimize, we look for good enough. Our brains are wired to save energy, so the second we find an option that clears our minimum bar of acceptability, we usually just stop looking. The hunt for the absolute best option is just too much work. So knowing that people are relying on these mental shortcuts, we can start to see that a purchase isn't just a single point in time. Nope, it's a journey with different phases, and where you can influence the outcome changes completely along the way. That journey has three key stages. Pre-purchase, where the idea is just starting to form. Purchase, the actual moment of transaction, and post-purchase, which is where loyalty is either built or totally destroyed. Most marketers, by the way, are obsessed with that middle step and completely miss the real game being played in the first and last stages. Let's really zero in on that pre-purchase phase, because frankly, this is where the entire sale is often won or lost before you even know you're in the running. Long before anyone's comparing prices or clicking add to cart, their mind is already being shaped. So look at how this works. A consumer starts with this huge universe of every possible option. Right away, their brain filters that down to just the brands they've even heard of. From there, they create a tiny consideration set, just a small handful of options they'd actually think about buying. And here's the key. If you are not in that consideration set, you might as well be invisible. To that customer, you don't even exist. This ad is a masterclass in this principle. This Grubhub ad isn't trying to sell you on features or price or anything complicated. Its one and only job is to be super simple and memorable. Why? So when that, I'm hungry trigger fires in your brain, Grubhub is one of the first words that just pops into your head. It wins a spot in your consideration set with pure, effortless awareness. And the other phases, just as critical. In the purchase phase itself, it is all about reducing friction. Ease wins, period. If your checkout process has 7 steps, you're going to lose to the competitor who makes it one-click simple. Then, in the post-purchase phase, it's all about managing expectations. Did the thing you sold them actually deliver? If it did, boom, you've earned a loyal customer. If not, you've just created buyer's remorse, and you can bet they're going to tell their friends all about it. Okay, so we've mapped out the journey, but the length and the complexity of that journey depend entirely on the stakes of the decision. I mean, we don't use the same mental process for buying a coffee as we do for buying a house, right? The context completely changes the rules of the game. So we can pretty much split decisions into two big categories. On one side, you have high-involvement decisions. These are the expensive, risky, and rare ones, like buying a car. This is where we might actually wake up that slow, cognitive brain for a bit. But on the other side, you have low-involvement decisions. fast, cheap, and habitual, like grabbing a soda. Here, we're running almost purely on autopilot.
And here's another powerful mental shortcut our brains use, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed with options. It's called non-compensatory thinking, and it just means we all have deal breakers. Think about it like when you're apartment hunting. A place could have an amazing view, a brand new kitchen, and be close to work, but if it doesn't allow pets, it's an instant no. It doesn't matter how great everything else is. One no can erase a dozen yeses.
Okay, so we've been looking at the psychology inside one person's head. But what happens when the decision isn't actually up to just one person? Now this is where things get really interesting and really complex. The concept you need to know here is the decision-making unit, or DMU. This is basically the group of people, the kind of hidden committee that collectively influences a purchase, even if only one person is the one who actually swipes the credit card. Let's make this totally real with a story. So meet Anna. She's about to turn 50, and she wants to buy her dream car, a Ford Mustang. In this scenario, she is the buyer. But she is absolutely not the only one making this decision. Her husband, Daniel, he's a huge influencer, talking her out of a really pricey engine upgrade. He's also a gatekeeper, conveniently forgetting to show her ads for any competing sports cars. On top of that, he's the approver, since they have an agreement on any big purchases. And get this, even their kids are influencers, pushing for racing stripes in a super flashy color. So the huge point here is this. When Ford markets that Mustang, they aren't just selling to Anna. They have to craft a message that resonates with, or at the very least doesn't alienate her entire family. They're not persuading a person, they're persuading a whole system. All right, let's pull all of these different threads together. Given that people are satisfied saying that they use emotional shortcuts, that they decide in groups, what is the actual job of marketing? It is not what most people think.
And this is it. If you remember one single thing from this whole explainer, please make it this. Your job as a marketer is not to be objectively better on some spreadsheet. Your job is to be the easiest answer to the problem your customer actually cares about. Be the simple, the intuitive, the of course solution that just feels right.
Understanding these deep psychological mechanisms is one thing, but using them to actually influence behavior? Well, that raises a whole new set of questions. How do we apply these powerful principles of persuasion ethically and effectively? That is exactly what we are going to explore next time.